Okay, if you're watching this video, you probably found out that I released the LUT pack finally, or you're finding it for the first time. So that being said, if you don't know who I am, my name's Tyler Goodwin. I'm a colorist and I'm a director of photography. I've worked with Elevation Worship, Maverick City Music, Cody Carnes, a lot of contemporary Christian music / live recording things is my main body of work. And then I've also worked on a few shorts and commercials and a few docs as well. So that being said, I have made an entire LUT pack. This has been being developed since 2023. I was on tour with Elevation Worship during spring of 23, and I made a little LUT just to kind of keep everything cohesive and quick so I could run in and out of the arena and do whatever that we needed to do and have it look somewhat consistent. And so I decided to just release it on my website. So you're here, you just bought the LUT pack, awesome, great. Let me show you how to use these LUTs. So I have 5 LUTs. There are 2 different categories of the LUTs. So when you open the LUTs for the first time, after you unzip them, what you should see is a folder that says contrast profiles, and then you'll see 2 more folders that say TG2 minus tone, TG2 plus tone. And inside of those, you'll find 5 LUTs each. So the TG2 plus tone is just some additional color curve adjustments that I made and embedded into the creative look. So it gives you an extra bit of pop of contrast. So if you don't want that, then you can just use the minus tone. All that is literally just a color lookup table. So it doesn't have any additional contrast, nothing. It's just split toning, some highlight manipulation, and a few other things to get you where you want to go. When I made these LUTs, I was originally just working in the Rec. 709 color space. There was no reason for me to make anything toward DaVinci wide gamut. It was out, but it was new, and it wasn't something that I was using at the time. Now, that being said, I do use DaVinci wide gamut. If you do not, that is totally okay. If you are in Premiere, if you're in Final Cut, that's great. You can apply these same principles to those 2 NLEs. And I believe the way that you would do that, I don't use them anymore. I've never used Final Cut. I hate using Premiere Pro, but I believe the way that you would do that, instead of me having everything set up here in nodes, is you would do it through adjustment clips. So whatever your adjustment clip is that's hitting the footage first, that's gonna be your contrast profile. Then after, on top of that layer, you would put the creative look. And that's how you would start grading. So if I've ever had to grade in Premiere, usually I have 8 to 10 adjustment layers stacked on top of each other, and that constitutes a color grade in Premiere because it is extremely difficult to do anything in that program. As you can tell, I do not like Premiere, I do not like Adobe. I think Lightroom is great, I think After Effects is good for what it is, Photoshop, cool. But video editing and video coloring, all DaVinci Resolve. I don't know why I would use anything different. Okay, so let me at least show you what we got going here. So this is a colored version of a lens test that I have on my YouTube. I can link that right here for you to watch if you would like. It's just the Blazar Remus anamorphic lens test. That being said, I developed a slight look, and what you'll see here is my node tree is pretty crazy, but these aren't all being used. This is just my generic node tree that I use to start grading projects these days. I just switched over to this about a month ago. Prior, it looked different. Much doesn't change though. There's just more nodes. So if it's overwhelming, please do not get too confused. I'll walk you through it. Okay, so what we have here is I have a simple noise reduction node. Nothing's touching it right now. It's not turned on. I mean, it's turned on, but there's no noise reduction hitting it, so I can just turn that off. These 2 nodes are flex nodes. Then this is my DaVinci wide gamut intermediate color space conversion to take it from Sony S-Log3 into DaVinci wide gamut, and then I will process my colors all the way through there until my Rec. 709 base. So let me just deactivate everything for y'all. This is how your footage will look if you're just pulling in your log footage into your timeline. Okay, so what I do, firstly, let me show you my color settings. In my color management, my timeline color space is DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. My output color space is Rec. 709 Gamma 2.4 because this is just going to a broadcast standard. It's gonna go to phones, YouTube, whatever, right? Also, sometimes since I work with elevation, our stuff will go to screens, which is broadcast standard, Rec. 709 Gamma 2.4. So also something, I don't know if it does anything really different, but for some reason I just do this out of my own brain. For some reason it makes me think that LUTs will look better. So I have my 3D lookup table interpolation turned to tetrahedral. Normally it's on trilinear. So that's it. That's what I do. And then right here, if you want to copy this, you can just save the current settings as a default preset. So I always have my stuff come in DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate, Rec. 709 Gamma 2.4 with tetrahedral lookup table interpolation. That being said, let's move on. Cool. So coming in, what we're gonna do is we're gonna wanna get our footage, which for me happens to be Sony S-Log3 S-Gamut3.cine. I'm shooting on my FX3 right now. This is footage also from my FX3. So what we're gonna do is get it out of S-Log3 into DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna take color space transform. You're gonna pop that on there. Input color space. We're gonna put in whatever your camera's color space is. Mine, Sony S-Gamut3.cine. Sony S-Log3. Boom. Output color space. We are working with DaVinci Wide Gamut, and we are in intermediate gamma. Cool. So now I can turn that off to the side for now. And then somewhere down the pipeline, it doesn't need to look like mine, but at some point you need to convert that signal back into Rec. 709 Gamma 2.4. So this is where I have it hitting in my node. So this is the conversion that happens to it. It's a little bit dark. It is what it is. Okay. So here, all I'm doing with this color space transform, it's another color space transform. Then we're taking the input color space and input gamma from our previous output, which would be DaVinci Wide Gamut and DaVinci Intermediate. And then we want to put our output color space, meaning the thing that is going to be exported out will be in the Rec. 709 Gamma 2.4 color space. So you would just go into the menus, click that, boom, boom, done, right? Cool. Now we can leave that alone. This is what our conversion looks like. So immediately what I'm gonna do here is I notice that it's a little bit underexposed. This is to taste, your exposure is to taste. However, what I like to do is start to balance it out. So I'm gonna pull up my exposure, which I do everything in the HDR wheels. If you right click on the node, set your color space for your camera and your gamma for your camera, the node will react a lot better to what you're about to do. So in the HDR wheels, you can do the exact same, color space and gamma, set it to your camera's color space and gamma. What I'm doing here is I'm pulling it up a stop and a third. So I'm protecting the highlights whenever I was shooting this, but it did make everything darker. So I'm pulling it up a stop and a third, and I'm pulling my light down. So let me just reset this global everything to show you what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So right here, it's dark. I'm gonna pull this up. Keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling, looking at my skin. Okay, that's about good for me. Now I'm gonna say the background's a little bit too bright for my taste. So I'm gonna start pulling those highlights back, and that's starting to sit in those white areas there where I want it to be. So then I'm gonna pull it down more so that the windows aren't as bright as my face. And we'll say that looks about good. Do I need to adjust the shadows? I can pull them up just a tiny bit, and great. We'll leave that there for now. And what I'm doing with the saturation as well is in my HDR wheels, I'm mapping my color space in gamma to my camera's color space in gamma. Then I noticed it's a little bit too warm. So I'm gonna cool it down a bit to neutralize all of the orange that's in that image. Notice there is an orange lamp right there, which is great. It's right over here, beautiful lamp. IKEA, 20-something dollars if you wanna get it. All I'm doing is I'm cooling it down 640 points in the blue area, and then I'm introducing some green back in because it was a little bit too magenta, a little bit too orange. I'm gonna leave the rest of these off because they weren't doing anything. These not doing anything. This is where I would make global adjustments immediately after. I don't need to as of right now. And then this is where I would mask any additional things that I would want to mask out. Say there's a very bright part of the area that I need to pull down. I'm gonna set a mask in here and I'm gonna pull it down. Or I need to adjust exposure on my face and my face only. I'll draw a mask and then I'll pull up or pull down some exposure from there. Then I have a flex node for grain, anything additional right here. Obviously we have our Rec. 709 conversion happening right here. And then this is where everything kind of starts to be normal with a normal Rec. 709 color space. Okay, so that conversion happened now. All of this is happening within the DaVinci wide gamut intermediate color space, converting to Rec. 709, and then because I made this LUT for Rec. 709, I adjusted all of my exposure and my contrast here. This is DaVinci wide gamut. I'm getting my contrast from my exposure node and then from the Rec. 709 conversion. So because that's happening, I don't need to use a contrast profile. The contrast profiles are merely there just to get your footage to a workable spot. It's to add in contrast so that the LUT can take it and do something with it without having to map the split toning and guessing. I didn't want to make it just a generic Rec. 709 conversion for a bunch of different cameras because each camera reacts differently to saturation levels, to different colors. So the reason why I made contrast profiles was so that you can choose out of any of them anything that you want. Let's just say we're in DaVinci wide gamut right now. I'm gonna come into here, pop this in. I'm gonna go to my LUTs, to my contrast profiles. I can choose from high contrast, low contrast, medium contrast. The one that I find works best for most cameras and most footage, depending upon how you exposed it, is medium contrast plus. So you'll notice that during this conversion, all it's doing is adding contrast. There's no additional color, there's no saturation, nothing. That comes from the creative LUT. So then we're gonna go into here. We're gonna go to our creative. Now I can choose plus tone to add that contrast tone, the additional split toning from the color curves that I mentioned earlier. So let's just say we're gonna do the look. Okay, that's very heavy, right? That's because we have that additional toning. So if that doesn't feel good to you, but you still want that color tone, right? Then what we can do is we can come back to the contrast profiles. We can drop it down to medium minus. Now that actually looks pretty good. That's a good starting spot. I would still say that the blacks are lifted a lot, which is not ideal. Don't just slap these on and say, good to go. These aren't meant to be a one and done. This is just a starting point to get you towards a tone that you would like to work with. So you would still have to do some work either before these nodes or after these nodes to dial it in perfectly to your taste. Now, if you like this, that's good. Would I release this way? No, absolutely not. I like my blacks to be black. So by doing that, by saying that, I always do this. I do a black fix. Not always, I won't say always, but a majority of the time. I will do this on footage where I come into my curves, which is Luma versus Sat. I'm gonna take my black point and I'm just gonna move it down. And if you notice, down here in the scopes, right here, it starts to balance those blacks out because I just dropped all of the saturation in the darkest part of the image in the luminance here, all the way down. So it's gonna be a nice gentle roll off. So if I full screen, look at my shoulder, on, or off rather, on. It's very subtle, but you can see in the shadow side that it starts to desaturate those very, very saturated reds, that additional split toning that's happening in the shadows, okay? So we're gonna leave that on because I like my blacks to look like that. Cool, so that's gonna stay right there. Then, that being said, that is just the look, okay? Plus tone, the look. It is the original one that I made. Then I made some additional options for you. So you have plus cool, which makes it very cool. If you like it like this, great. You can have a cool image like that. That's a good start. Or you can go back into your temp and you can adjust the temperature to get that toning to a more desirable place for you. Or you can place a node beforehand and even throw in some global adjustments like this. I'll turn this on real quick. Let's just mess around with our primaries. Just say push maybe a little bit more green, maybe right there, and then those highlights are really green. Let's just cool them off. But now I'm seeing a lot of magenta. So either I can just take my global and go this way, and now we have something that feels more sci-fi, more Adam Driver 65-esque, kind of feels like a 500T. Not perfect, obviously. This isn't an emulation, but it gives you that split toning. So, amazing. I'm just gonna take that off for now to show you the rest of these LUTs. So, from there we have that one, which is plus cool. Here is plus green. This one was created on desert footage. So, it actually added a lot of separation between the dust and the dirt in the desert to the sky, and it made it more green. The next one is magenta, very magenta. Again, you can balance this out, say it's too magenta for you. Well, that's okay. You can put more green into it beforehand. So you're still getting that magenta skin tone now, but everything behind it is a little bit more neutralized. Next, we're gonna go into plus warm, very warm. Let's play around with some more contrast profiles. Now the high contrast ones were specifically made for very, very dark shadows and bright highlights, but you underexposed your image, let's say 3 stops, and it was a dimly lit blue hour situation. So if I throw these on here, they're gonna look crazy. Again, you don't need to use these contrast profiles. I just threw them in as an additional way that you can get started faster. As you can tell, I think that these are a really good starting place for you as a colorist. Maybe you're just getting started, maybe you're not. Maybe you actually are way better than me at our job, and that is great. I am so glad that you took the time to download this pack of LUTs and try it out for yourself. I know a lot of people growing up, if you're relatively close to my age, I'm 25, we grew up in the Sam Kolder era of everybody buying Sam Kolder's LUTs and just slapping them on, good to go. Now, I don't believe that that was Sam Kolder's intention whenever he made his LUTs. However, that is what it turned into. Please do not turn this into that. This is not a one-stop shop. This is not a slap on and ship it LUT. They're very versatile. They can be used for a lot of work. I even color graded our Elevation Worship Christmas few music videos that we put out with these LUTs. I use them. These aren't LUTs that I'm just saying, hey, I'm making these so that you buy them and you pay me money. This is a product that I believe in. I wouldn't release it to you otherwise. That's why it's taken me over a year to do it. But yeah, guys, I mean, I hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much for buying the LUT pack if you bought it. If not, there's a link in the description. You can go check it out. In the future, I'm gonna start releasing some power grades for my DaVinci users. I'm sure I'll come up with another LUT pack around summer of just some new tones that I'm trying out, of things like that. But yeah, love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting me by doing this. Please tag me in your stuff on Instagram if you choose to use it. It's at Tyler Goodwin with 2 underscores at the end. You can visit my website, tylergoodwin.co. And yeah, message me on Instagram, let's chat. I try to respond to everything that I can. Sometimes I'm very busy. Currently, my texts are at about 530 unread. So I'm just letting you know, I'm not the best at responding, but I'm going to do my best to respond to any questions that you have, especially if it's about this product. Or if you just want to chat. If you want to chat and pick my brain for some color stuff, totally down. Obviously, I would love to make more YouTube videos like this. I meant to about 2 years ago, and I just never did. But we're starting to roll them out. So anyway, thank you guys so much. I'll see you next time. Peace.